Hi, we're students from the University of Edinburgh studying a Masters in Carbon Management. We have been to the Edinburgh Zoo to look at a Binturong and find out why it's been listed as vulnerable by the IUCN. Through a series of questions, we will assess this vulnerability and find out how it will affect its natural habitat in response to climate change.
Known for their famous buttery popcorn scent, you can often smell binturongs before you can see them. Due to their appearance, they are often mistaken for a bear or a cat, which subsequently provides the basis of their more colloquial name, the bear cat. They are in fact not related to either of these animals and are one of the largest mammals living in Southeast Asian rainforests. They are omnivores, eating almost anything they can find and catch. However, they have a strong preference for strangler figs that are found in many tropical forests.
The binturong's habitat extends over rainforest area in Southeast Asia. Due to their remote life in the canopies of the jungle, there is not much research on the animal. However, in general, roughly 30% population decline in the last 2 decades has been recorded and estimated. Humans' increased needs for space and land use change activity affect the binturong, which can tolerate logging to a degree but is not able to live in the monoculture plantations. Although they are primarily a boreal animal, they are unable to jump from tree to tree and instead must climb down to the forest floor. As a great climber, the binturong has a prehensile tail which is thick and nearly the same length as the animal's body. The tail has a lateral patch at the end to help grip branches. For climbing, they also possess half-retractable claws and the ability to rotate the foam poles by 360 degrees. They also have strong jaws and sharp claws, which along with their large size and aggressive nature renders them clear of much predation. Another feature of the binturong is delay in plantation. Although mating occurs at any time of the year, the fertilized egg doesn't immediately implant in the female's uterus, but instead lingers in her body until she is in a suitable condition for birth. The binturong is only one of few mammals that has this characteristic. However, one of the most famous characteristics is their buttery popcorn smell because of the volatile compounds in their urine. The animals proceed to cover its face and tail with their urine, which is then used to mark out its territory.
The current climate envelope for the Binturong is a tropical wet climate. In Southeast Asia, this is influenced by maritime wind systems from the Indian Ocean and the South China Sea. 2 monsoon seasons per year are usual. The northeastern monsoon occurs from October to February and brings heavy rains to the eastern side of the islands. The southwestern monsoon is more powerful and occurs from April to August. Southeast Asian rainforests get an average of 2,000 millimeters of rain per year, although it can reach up to 4,000 millimeters, as we can see in this figure. Southeast Asia experiences constant heat and high humidity, with mean annual temperatures in the range of 20 to 32 degrees Celsius. In mountainous subtropical forests near the Himalaya, the climate is cooler. Temperatures range from 5 to 20 degrees Celsius in the winter season and 20 to 40 degrees Celsius during the summer.
Changes in temperature and precipitation as well as sea level rise are the main aspects of climate change. With various emissions scenarios based on assumptions about the development of anthropogenic greenhouse gases and climate models, scientists can project future climatic conditions. The IPCC's most optimistic scenario is the RCP 2.6 scenario, which assumes successful climate change mitigation. For Southeast Asia, the models project a further temperature increase of at least 0.5 degrees Celsius in the southern parts and up to 1 degree for the mainland regions in the mid-21st century. These data are related to the period 1986 to 2005. A successful global climate mitigation is depicted by the RCP 8.5 or worst-case scenario with quantified temperature increases by at least 1.5 degrees in the southern parts and up to 2.5 degrees on the mainland. The current global emission reduction targets set by the Paris Agreement project the likelihood of an average temperature increase in Southeast Asia by 1.75 degrees Celsius in 2050. Projections of precipitation patterns show a variability within the distribution range of the Binturong. Climate models project a slight decrease in rainfall in the southern island areas under the RCP 2.6 scenario, whilst an increase is reported over the mainland by 2050. However, if climate change takes the worst-case scenario, annual precipitation could decrease up to 20% in some areas of Southeast Asia by 2050, whereby heavy precipitation events related to the monsoon are very likely to increase. The aspect of sea level rise will affect millions of people in Southeast Asia, reducing usable areas for living and food production.
A species is categorized as vulnerable by the IUCN if it is likely to become endangered unless the circumstances threatening its survival and reproduction get better. Due to rising temperatures, agricultural production is said to be less fruitful. The 5th IPCC report on adaptation for Asia found that the grain yields in Southeast Asia are going to fall up to 50% by 2100 compared to 1990. Sea level rise is projected to displace arable areas, and thus more land will be needed for agriculture. This, along with the projected economic growth and rapid increase in population, will result in competition for lands between humans and biodiversity. Therefore, in order to maintain and go beyond current levels of agricultural yields, there will have to be a significant land use change by which forest lands are converted into agricultural areas. Therefore, depleting the Binturong's natural habitat and indirectly increasing its vulnerability due to climate change. Another climate change-induced factor which threatens the Binturongs are wildfires. The risk for devastating fires that affect the rainforest biodiversity are intensified by less precipitation, droughts, and changes in the monsoon cycle. Moreover, the El Niño events will be more catastrophic. Another factor is the diminishing availability of slow-moving water sources, and this, along with less precipitation, will lead to further reductions of the Binturong's preferred living areas.
As mentioned earlier, one of the key characteristics of the Binturong is its delayed implantation, which will make the animal more resilient to environmental changes. In this way, the female has time to wait for good environmental conditions to give birth to her young. Another key characteristic is the broad range of the Binturong's diet. If climate change affects the vegetation within the Binturong's habitat, the species will adapt to available resources. Local people in Southeast Asia both hunt and capture the Binturong. They are hunted for their fur, meat and body parts, which are used in traditional medicine. In Indonesia, they are often kept in captivity by farmers, who use them to make a special type of coffee. However, conversion of rainforests into palm oil, rubber or teak plantations also threatens the Binturong. In Indonesia, around 1,021 km² of wooded area per year has been lost since 2000, and this will likely increase due to population increase and climate change. It is also commonplace for this to occur illegally in places where logging is restricted. Moreover, habitat loss drives habitat fragmentation, in which the gene pool of the Binturong will be severely diminished. In this way, they will suffer a decrease in genetic variety, reducing their resilience and adaptation capacity. Unfortunately, few wildlife groups focus their work on the Binturong. Conservation efforts are tricky as public awareness, research efforts and public funding are reliant on one another. There is however a group in France called AB Conservation who have chosen the Binturong as their mission and even started a World Binturong Day to raise awareness. We believe that the Binturong's classification as vulnerable is justified. However, direct impacts of climate change are not the main causes. Living in an intensively used area, the Binturong's main threats are humans. We reduce the Binturong's habitat by devastating the rainforests for producing palm oil and other resources, making their ecosystem less resilient. Next to limiting further deforestation activities, it is paramount to preserve the Binturong's habitat, with sufficient genetic diversity to enable long-term resilience and survival. Therefore, one of the main aspects for reducing their exposure to climate change in the future is the rigorous prohibition of logging in designated areas, which is currently not the case.